Oh, hi. How are you? Welcome to the Bituation Room's bonus bish on a fantastic Friday. I am your fairly frazzled host, Francesca Fiorentini. Um, a water main by my house burst, and now there's no water. Like the whole block doesn't have water. I had to wet wipe my shower this morning, which I wish I could say it was the first time I've done that, but I'm a mom, people. We know how we roll. We know how we roll. So if you hear trucks outside of my home, they're probably trying to hopefully fix the water. Um, you know, you appreciate living in the global north. I literally can hear the trucks right now. This is great. It's amazing. We're all going to hear them together. Um, but yes, look, I'm not saying I could do all the things I need to do with a bucket, but I got to have that bucket. You know what I mean? I need a bucket. I don't know if I have a bucket. The point is, there's a lot of wet wipes, so it's fine. Everything's hunky dough. But we got a lot of things to cover today. If you missed Wednesday's show, which you might have if you're not part of the Frantifa, truly, if you're not a patron, if you're not a member on YouTube like Rexanic5 or Kathy McIntyre, who's been a member for 4 months, you will have missed my discussion about Cori Bush's devastating loss and how there is truly no way forward other than getting rid of money in our politics. Holding the people accountable time and time again, making sure they remember how much Republican donor money is funneled through AIPAC and other pro-Israel lobbies. My thoughts on her comments, and maybe a little bit more today. But there was that. We also read RFK Jr.'s Bear account. Perfectly logical. Who doesn't have, as he told the New York Post today, a freezer full of roadkill? That's just one 32nd, which I guess is the 16th. That's just one part of how ridiculous that entire story is. And yet, Joe Rogan today claiming he is the only viable option. So honestly, I feel like RFK has swapped the suburban moms for roadkill eaters, which is like, hey, that's a fair trade. That's fine, probably. Nova, thank you for also becoming a member. And also, again, the way you get access to the best of the best perks, 20% off our union made merch. That's why it's a little bit more expensive. $30 for a t-shirt because it's union made. Got the union bug. Patreon.com/Bituation Room. Thank you so much. If you want to listen back, watch back all of our bonus episodes, some of the ridiculous stories we've covered, maybe some of the stories I'll talk about, I may try to squeeze in today. But I did want to just up top mention that today marks the 10-year, not anniversary, but commemoration, 10-year mark since Mike Brown was murdered by police in Ferguson, Missouri, kicking off what I think would probably be called the second wave of Black Lives Matter demonstrators, and the third wave being George Floyd, the first wave being Trayvon Martin's murder, and honestly kicking off the political career of one Cori Bush. And last year, when she was still in the good graces of mainstream media, ABC did a report about her. I'm not going to use the footage just in case they stupidly demonetize this, but I wanted to read a little bit about it because I think it's important to remember her origin story, and the fact that when she says she's not going anywhere, believe her that she's not going anywhere. So let's get into it a little bit. If I can figure out all of my, my tabs. Sometimes you girls' tabs are crazy. I need 2 screens, I realize. Representative-elect Cori Bush did not envision herself as an activist, let alone the first Black woman to represent Missouri in Congress when she took the streets in 2014 to protest the death of Mike Brown. Brown, a Black 18-year-old, was shot and killed by Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson, who was white, on August 9th, 2014. The incident sparked nationwide protests and marked a national recognition of the Black Lives Matter movement. I didn't set out to become an activist. This wasn't even a thing back then, Bush, a former nurse and pastor who lived 6 minutes away from where Brown died, told the ABC News. I was watching my community enrage. I was watching my community just look away and feel a way that I was unfamiliar with. 6 years later, Bush unseated longtime incumbent William Lacey Clay Jr. in the Democratic primaries to represent Missouri's 1st congressional district, which includes Ferguson. And then during the ABC News interview, she reflected on how the Black Lives Matter movement had grown. We met out there in a situation of trauma, and we were just out there seeking justice. We weren't seeking a name. We weren't seeking to build a movement. We weren't seeking likes on social media. We were out there to get justice for Mike Brown Jr. and his family. And then not only that, but to see how we could stop what's happening in this country as it relates to policing Black bodies. Wilson resigned from the police department in November 2014, the same month the grand jury chose not to indict him for Brown's death. Let's remember that. In 2015, the U.S. Justice Department also declined to prosecute him, citing evidence and witnesses supporting Wilson's claims that Brown attacked him. Bullshit, man. We all know he grabbed him. The officer grabbed him from within the car. It doesn't even fucking matter, y'all. It doesn't even fucking matter. Don't get me started on how I think the police should be held to higher standards than civilians. Yes, I said it. Yeah, higher standards, higher barrier to murder than you and I. They're the ones enforcing the law, then they shouldn't carry out murder. So, again, this was her origin story. Then she talks about Derek Chauvin. Bush lamented the number of Black people who've died at the hands of police since Brown was killed, including Breonna Taylor, George Floyd this year. Nevertheless, and this was 2020, she acknowledged the impact of their deaths on the Black Lives Matter movement. Seeing that video of that police officer Chauvin with his knee on the neck of George Floyd out there on the ground in public, in front of all the people with other officers around, that man begging for his life and his life still taken from him in that moment, it shook the world, and rightfully so. She talks about introducing, in fact, she had introduced a bill, I believe, in Congress to basically compensate and specifically offer trauma and healing services for mental health services for family members impacted by police violence, surviving members like the father of Mike Brown, who today took the streets of Ferguson, Missouri, to commemorate this day and to remember, he said, quote, "I'm not going to ever let the world forget my son."
Say his name. Mike Brown. 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 Say his name. Say his name.
So there they are, marching in Missouri. And the reason I start with that is because, and the fact that like Cori Bush is interviewed by like ABC Year in Review. Actually, I was interviewed by ABC Year in Review. They effectively like Vecna sucked all my knowledge from me of about last year. This was 2023, and then used like 2 sound bites and didn't pay me money. So that's how when you're on TV, that's what happens. But you get a sense of where we were at in 2020, right? Because they're interviewing Cori Bush. They're heralding her as kind of a hero. This is the year that George Floyd is murdered, that Breonna Taylor is murdered. The world is talking about what the F is going on with the police in the United States of America. How are people being gunned down in their own homes? How is it? Can you put your knee on someone's neck for 9 minutes and slowly kill them in front of everyone and face few repercussions? Although the real outlier of the George Floyd case was that there was justice. There was not, however, in Breonna Taylor's case. And 4 years later, you could just discard Cori Bush. The political system, thanks to big money donors, thanks to a lobby that believes in whitewashing their own genocide, can just shirk her and shunt her like a bad flu. Like, man, you remember when we caught that flu, that bug of racial justice 4 years ago? Remember when we actually elected people from the community, people who were nurses or pastors or formerly unhoused people, as Cori Bush was? Yeah, we just got that out of our system. Did you actually do anything? Did anyone take up Cori Bush's bill? Because she single-handedly can't pass something like that. Has the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act actually been passed? This is something that Kamala Harris also needs to answer for, in addition to her remarks, obviously, about the Gaza protesters. That's something that needs to be answered for. She says that she will. But remember, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act is minor. It is, let's create a database of all police violence. Fucking imagine that. That's all. This is the equivalent of putting body cams on cops, which we now know has only meant we see more of their violence. It doesn't actually prevent them from doing their violence. It is a good step. It's a step in the right direction. But all to say, like, it stings when you remember that someone like Cori Bush, this is why she was elected, and this is how she gets kicked out of office. And where is Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries? Where are they when it comes to standing up for her? Fuck you and your fucking Manolo Blahnik kneel in front of the world with your kente cloths. That is so embarrassing, because you just allowed a two-time incumbent to be ousted by massive amounts of money. And did you do robocalls? Did you do robocalls for her the way you did for the congressman in Texas who's got, what is it, Henry Cuellar, who's now under federal investigation on some drug trafficking shit because you couldn't handle Jessica Cisneros? I mean, this is the thing, it's just like, we are reminded in the moments like this, we're reminded in the moments where Kamala Harris tells a group of anti-genocide, again, a bunch of peace protesters, if you keep talking like that, you're going to get Donald Trump elected, and everyone goes wild. I'm sorry, don't ever ask me to Yaz Queen that kind of bullshit, okay? If you've got nothing to say, you literally shut up and stop and stand still. And a lot of people online have been reminding us just how much communities that we currently herald as being brave, right? Whether it's the LGBTQ community before gay marriage was allowed, whether it's Dreamers, right? And the immigrant rights community. Remember what they did, whether it's Occupy Wall Street. Remember what Dreamers did during the Obama years? They sat in his offices. Everywhere Democrats went, they sat in. They made their voices heard. Remember, there's a famous clip of Nancy Pelosi saying, "Stop it now, you stop it now. Okay, stop it now, knock it out, stop it now. You just stop it now. Just stop it now." I mean, look, then there's Dianne Feinstein being approached by a bunch of fifth graders with handmade drawings that are like, "Hey, please stop funding the fossil fuel industry and give us a fighting chance at a real future." Democrats have always been shit when it comes to actually responding to protesters. But how the hell else are we supposed to get anything done? And guess what? Those Dreamers did get something done. They did get DACA passed. What do you know? It works. And to everyone who is I would call maybe an ultra leftist or someone who is a non-strategic leftist who sees Kamala Harris, chiding protesters and saying, "See, this is why nothing's going to happen with Kamala. This is why she's a genocide enabler." Da, 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 da. Well, the same thing I just told you. By the same token, Obama did act under DACA, on DACA and for the Dreamers, because he knew, number one, he was being dogged by it. And number two, it was politically popular. And so remember, just like the kente cloth kneeling, that's all performative bullshit. But what happens after, the real push for policy, which on police reform is not yet done, and the pressure still needs to be on. Obviously, on Gaza and on a ceasefire and on a weapons embargo, that effort and that energy still has to be done. On immigration, on border, there is evidence to show that when you make yourself a pain in Democrats' asses, it works. And just like liberals, in 20 years' time, when we have finally freed Palestine, And there is one state, and it's called Pasreal. We'll workshop it. All the libs who said, just shut up, you're going to get Trump reelected. All of the libs. And this is, again, mind you that we've set our country on a course that is away from Trump. All those libs will be like, well, I always thought what Israel did was terrible. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Because you're a lib. But that's okay. Because now you see. And you can join. And we move forward together. So my hat's off to the uncommitted movement. My hat's off to the people who chanted, Kamala, Kamala, you can't hide. We won't vote for genocide, which I think is a really important chant to remember how they edited it. The chant is, blank, blank, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide, right? Charge you. They said we won't vote for genocide. In other words, there's still time. We might vote. If you change course on this, if you roll out a plan, there's still hope for us to vote for you. You need our votes. We know you do. So I'm sure you all saw that video. I don't need to play it again. But this is the difference, right? We can walk and chew gum, but it is very crushing and cruel when a real one like Cori Bush gets taken out, just like Jamal Bowman was taken out, and you hear absolute radio silence from the other side. Especially, like, it's one thing to hear look, when Crowley got taken out, or when Lacey Jr. got taken out. Obviously you didn't see Nancy Pelosi freak out about it, because again, she respects the win. She respects the W at the end of the day, and we know that. But the fact that you take out a Crowley or a Lacey by simply knocking doors, phone banking, and truly speaking to people's needs and your constituents' needs is so light years different than taking out a two-time progressive incumbent because you put $18 million. A foreign entity put $18 million into the race. It's just fucking wild. Let's move on to fun stuff, like the fact that Donald Trump truly is being crushed. Like, the polling is bad on Trump. Polling is very good on Kamala Harris. And Trump does not look good. He doesn't sound good. He doesn't look good. And as of today, apparently his base, Nazis, are jumping ship. I don't care who their names is, but Nick Fuentes is apparently like, I mean, I don't know what Kanye thinks. I don't know what Candace thinks. But not only that, but Joe Rogan is apparently off the Trump train now. He's onto the RFK Jr. train, like I said. He must have a fridge full of squirrel meat. It's a little gamey, but it's quite good. Just like, I can't. This shit is so gross to me. That's so fucking gross. Anyway, Trump had let's be real. Trump is going through a Biden moment. Trump's having his Biden moment, which is, nobody asked for this, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. And that was a very long presser at Mar-a-Lago, which was freewheeling and bizarre and ridiculous, and apparently without his bronzer. And I know in this light, he looks fairly bronzed. In fact, he looks actually more bronzed than I do. Obviously, your girl needs a vacation. Not going to happen with a 1.5-year-old. But here's my theory. Number one, he definitely didn't have his bronzer on. But number two, that Ozempic, like, some people look good and better with more meat on them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it worked for Mike Pompeo, but it's not working for Donald Trump. The Ozempic's just not working for him. Like, it's not, because there's too much sag and you look older as you age. If you're almost 80, like, having a little bit of, heft to you makes you look a little bit more alive. But no. And to me, of all the things he said, I like this the best because even though he brags that Kamala Harris is stupid and he's very smart, he still cannot get over the fact that she is now the nominee for the Democratic Party. And suddenly, he, like so many right-wingers, have so much empathy for Joe Biden. How could you do this to Biden? Why did you do this to Biden? And now some people see the writing on the wall, like Nick Fuentes, like Joe Rogan, because they're jumping ship. They're like, bye-bye, we're going RFK, or we're going to, because we have to protect our followers and our following so that we can say we were right. We know what was going to happen. Now, obviously, you only are that kind of influencer when you just, all you do is peddle in absolutes. And I personally would never do that to y'all because, you know, I'm far too silly and stupid. And also, I leave that to the experts. And I would never tell you that this is the one source of information, the Bituation Room. In fact, the only thing that I would ever tell you about the Bituation Room is that this is the one, see? This is the one source, cue ad break, for CBD or CBD, as others call it. And you know what? This is the only source. I don't give a shit. Sunset Lake CBD is having an anniversary sale. This is all a prep for Donald Trump's quote, trust me. They're having an anniversary sale. It's their birthday today. It is 25% off all of your products, your entire basket. It's their birthday, their fifth birthday, in fact. So to thank you all, you can use coupon code BIRTHDAY at checkout, not Frantifa. That's only 20% off, birthday. And you save 25% off everything. And they're going to add a free bottle of their new soft gels, which means it's not tincture and it's not gummies. It's far more fast acting. It's their soft gels. I've tried them. They're incredible. They're really effective. But y'all know I love their sleep gummies because they have melatonin in them, which, you know, helps you go night-night. And the gummies are more slow release. I have a very easy time falling asleep, but around like 1 or 2, I wake up and I'm like, time to think again. So sunsetlakecbd.com, coupon code birthday. So they'll add a bottle of their new soft gels. Ooh, sorry, for $1. Sorry, for $1. You have to pay $1 for their soft gels, but that's really worth it. It's not free. You have to pay $1. That being said, let's go back to our boy who could really use some CBD right now. I don't think it'll help his complexion, but he could really use it. Here he is. So sad that Joe Biden is no longer running against him.
That we cherish this Constitution. To have done it this way is pretty severe, pretty horrible. You would have thought they would have gone out to a vote. They would have had a primary system. They would have done something, but to just take it away from him like he was a child. And he's a very angry man right now.
Okay. So now he's like, they should have had a primary, which, like, I'm like, yeah, actually, we should have had a primary. But to take it away from him like that, like he's a child, he's a very angry man right now.
Yeah, I can tell you that. He's not happy with Obama, and he's not happy with Nancy Pelosi, crazy Nancy. She is crazy, too. She's not happy with any of the people that told him that you've got to leave. He's very unhappy, very angry. And I think he also blames her.
Why do you care? He's just like, suddenly now we're like, oh, he's angry. You're angry, my guy. Like, you're so angry. You are so pissed. I love this. I am so not looking forward to the like corporate California Democrat that is Kamala Harris if she is elected. But my God, watching the right lose their minds to the point of the rats jumping ship because Joe Biden is no longer in the race, and it baffles them. They cannot wrap their mind around the idea that we would see all the evidence, we'd see the writing on the wall, important pundits, the media class, and yeah, sure, donors, but also grassroots, but also people who are like, hey, Genocide Joe, you gotta go. They would all come together, and that Joe Biden would actually finally listen to them because, and I've said this before, it would never happen in the Republican Party. 34 felony counts, however many payouts, a guy who's a convicted rapist is their nominee. And nope, it's fine. Keep going. Please don't pass the torch. Who would you even fucking pass it to? I mean, Donald Trump really is, to Lindsey Graham's point, the undoing of the Republican Party. But he only works so long as Donald Trump is still around. It's non-transferable. Whatever juju he has, whatever, Nazi potion he's got, hate potion number 9, whatever that is, it just can't be transferred. They've been looking for someone it can be transferred to, but their whiny little bitch DeSantis couldn't get it right.
I'm just mad because, there's books and libraries, and why do people read?
That's not doing it for anybody. It hasn't done it. I'm not saying it can't in the future. I'm not saying a Tucker Carlson or some other bloviating asshole won't come in and replace Donald Trump, but none on the horizon. There's not a bench. Democrats, they've got a pretty big bench. Okay, now some of them have not been prepped enough. Some of them are not the bench that I would like. If you're looking at Gavin Newsom, no thanks. Gretchen Whitmer, okay. Pritzker, maybe. But there's no bench on the Republican Party. It's Trump and Trump alone, to the point where they're now hauling out his grandkids because they're like, I don't know, or do you have it? It's like not to make everything about House of the Dragon, but it's very much can we find a bastard child of Trump's to be able to ride this Nazi dragon in order to fight Kamala Harris and progress? That's what they're doing at this point. Does he have any illegitimate children? Is Barron ready yet? He's got the height. Such a whiny bitch.
He's trying to put up a good face, but it's a very bad thing in terms of a country when you do that. I'm not a fan of his, as you probably have noticed, and that we cherish. We cherish this Constitution.
So he's basically saying it's unconstitutional, which is and that's the other thing, and I think it goes to a broader point about what liberals do in the face of fascists. Too often, we imagine that their scenarios are already a reality. I'll explain what I mean, which is when he's like, I don't know if it's constitutional. Have there been legal challenges to Kamala Harris being the Democratic nominee for president? No, not that I'm aware of. Will there be? I don't think so. I don't think Mike Johnson has been able to find something. I think the Heritage Foundation's got way too much smoke on them from Project 2025. They're all trying to they don't know. So no one can actually bring a legal argument. And remember, before Biden dropped out, this was well, I don't know. Maybe the right will start a legal case and they'll go up to the Supreme Court. And then we will fucking riot. I don't give a fuck. We would riot. And when I say we, I mean many of a broad riot. But, and I'm not violent. Everything's nonviolent in my world. It's just militant. But the same with Project 2025. I'm so glad we investigated it, that it became front page news, that everyone ran with it, that Taraji P. Henson talked about it at the BET Awards, I believe. But the problem that sometimes liberals have is just because the right dreams it doesn't mean you have to lay down and take it. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen. It's simply their vision board. We should have a vision board. Hey, where's our vision board? I know what my vision board is. I know what progressives' vision board is. What's the centrist vision board look like? There is none. It doesn't actually, it's back to brunch, keep taking donor money. There's no vision board. You know what I'm saying? So it's sometimes what liberals do, and you saw this in 2016 when Trump said the following: we're going to build a wall on the US-Mexico border. Well, what did liberals do? And they did it vis-a-vis mainstream news, right? You saw Jake Tapper, and it was a thing. We covered it on Newsbroke and with AJ Plus in 2016. Man, the first thing out of Jake Tapper's mouth, which honestly, he's done some good shit lately, but ooh, boy, do I have some critiques. The first thing out of his mouth during the Republican primary in 2015 was, or 2016, it was early shit, was basically like, Donald Trump wants to build a wall on the US-Mexico border. Jeb Bush, what do you think? What? How is that the starting point for what you're talking about? That is the issue. If you want to talk about the issue, could be illegal border crossings. It could be a broken immigration system. But when a fascist paints you a fucking crayon picture of their dystopian future, that does not have to become our reality unless you allow it to become our reality, unless you capitulate to that reality. And you're like, oh, I don't know, it looks pretty good. Those are pretty good crayon drawings. That's a good plan. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? So we get lulled into that. We get lulled into the idea that a Handmaid's Tale is going to happen, or that a Project 2025 is going to happen. It doesn't have to be that way. It's important to know where they want to go. It's important to warn people about that. But it also, and I think what I appreciated about Tim Walz' entry into this is even redefining Republicans as weird. And then he doubled down on the rally this week and said creepy. That allowed us to steer back to kind of reality, because sometimes, and I think climate change is a perfect example about this. I apologize for going off on a million tangents, but this is how Franny's brain works. In the face of climate change, so many of us don't know what to do. In the face of fascism, so many of us don't know what to do. We're like, I don't know, do everything and nothing. I don't know. When everything feels so insurmountable, it's hard to break it apart for what it is, which is something that we can change locally, daily, which is something that has not yet come into be. Climate collapse has not yet come into be. The chaos is here, but we can mitigate the worst impacts of it. So you see what I'm saying? Like, we too often walk into, and media, the mainstream news, and they're relentless. And I'm not someone to be like, mainstream media sucks. I really find that a little bit tiresome. But what I hate is their relentless march into normalizing fascism, in their relentless pursuit of so-called objectivity. And it's like, nah, man, because as my brother once said, which I thought was a perfect analogy, like, when someone says the moon is made of cheese, the argument isn't, well, is the moon made of cheese? Yes or no? Okay. A says no, B says yes. Let's go. That's not the debate. It's verifiably not made of cheese. Otherwise, Buzz Aldrin would have never come back. All right. He would have been like, Gouda, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, Buzz Aldrin, you fucking snake. By the way, I think there are astronauts currently in space right now that can't come back until 2025, which is crazy. And also, I'm like, did that mean they have to sleep with each other? Would they? Are they just going to play like an endless game of never have I ever? Like, how does that work? Will they get, like, can you play board games in space? Because, or do the pieces just float around? Like, what happens? Thank you, Amy C, for becoming a member on YouTube, and R Davis as well for becoming a member. And thank you, Electron Creations, for that super chat. You can also tip the show, TBR-Live on Venmo, TBR Live on Cash App, if you want to kick us a few bucks, and you will get a shout out during the fart song of the main show. Half Black Reaper says, wait, where is your comment? God damn it. Yes, their Boeing shuttle failed once they hit the station. Crazy. One Great Earth says astronauts face bone density loss from being in space too. That's nuts. But then they get to come back and be like a senator, right? I feel like that's how it works. All right, guys. we got to talk about this because it's fucking wild. And then, so the other story that we didn't cover on Tuesday, so much happened between Tuesday and Friday. How? But we now know that there's video footage of Israeli soldiers gang raping a Palestinian detainee in one of the many mass detention centers in, I believe this is in the south of Israel, holding mostly civilians. This man is not proven to be a militant. In our bonus episodes, we have talked about who has been swept up. They're cooks, they're ambulance drivers. They have been tortured. They have been absolutely traumatized, mutilated. We know about this case because this man was so injured and abused that he had to go to a civilian hospital and not a military hospital. And the doctors then told media, specifically Israeli media, what they saw. Now, there have been a lot of people defending what happened, including Israeli settlers who rioted on this detention center and demanding that the soldiers who were trying to be held accountable, who were basically arrested for their crimes, demanded that they be let go. Fucking insane. 10 were arrested. 5 have been let go. 5 are still being held for questioning. But I talked about this on TYT a little bit if you want to check those videos out. But here is today on a news channel in Israel, they decided to platform one of the soldiers who is accused of doing said gang rape. And he is defending himself on channel 14, and there's a live audience here, people. And he's in front of like 2 commentators, one of whom absolutely was like, this is horrific. How could they do this? And the other one was like, I don't care. Do whatever they want. So here he is. He has a mask on to sort of give you a sense of like, gee, I wonder which one is the good guy. Like, that's a bad song, but we'll figure out. We'll workshop what the good guy song is. You might be the baddie if you go on television with a mask on, looking like a literal terrorist, but they're an army. They're the most moral army, and defend your actions. Let's take a look. So now he's mad. To give you context, he's mad at the pundit for saying, why did you slander our name, for condemning their actions? He says, you edited the videos. Why did you edit the video? Edit the videos? He did. First of all, that person didn't edit the videos. I know it was released by channel 12, which is, this is channel 14. Edit the videos? Guys, for those of you who haven't seen the video, you can't see very much. I'm like, is there more? Because I'm pretty sure it was probably edited for censorship's sake, not edited to not show what you were doing. These soldiers grab a Palestinian prisoner from where he is laying, like in a line with other tortured Palestinian prisoners, hostages. They look like they're lying in a grave. Picks him up, takes him to a corner of the detention camp, covering him with shields, and you can tell they're doing something to him. Mind you, this guy came in and they basically had to sew his rectum. That's what happened. I mean, this is not the first time. The New York Times did an entire expose on this. Says that's why I'm sitting here, to defend us, to defend the Force 100. Like, America, we're not quite here yet. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we're not quite at the Proud Boy sits in Fox News studio audience and gets applause line for brutalizing a police officer on January 6th. We're not quite, Charlottesville Unite the Right rally Nazi gets platformed and applauded. We're close. We might be close, but this is what Israeli politics, and I would argue maybe Israeli society, which obligates everyone to serve in their military, that has Force 100 squadrons like this. There is a culture of militarism. There is a culture of supremacy. There is a culture that is necessitated by maintaining a demographic majority over an Arab or Palestinian population, that is necessitated by occupation, that is necessitated when you believe for religious purposes you are entitled to someone else's land, and that project never ends until every single one of them leaves, is killed, or is subsumed into your society to live in mostly ghettos, second-class neighborhoods, but even then, very few. There's a culture that is necessitated. I am not saying every Israeli is like this, but I am saying the culture of occupation, the culture of apartheid for any liberal Zionist within the sound of my voice is corrupting. It is morally corrupting. It is, I am sorry, the same way that the actions of the SS and the Nazi regime to dehumanize a population, to say once we are rid of the Jews, we will be safe, we will be good, corrupted the entire society, allowed them to turn their backs on the crimes. American society has been corrupted. Of course it has. We are a settler colonial project. This is playing out in 2024, people. You often get asked, by liberal Zionists, well, what about the United States? I mean, they're like a colonial project too. Oh my God. It's just like, okay, so you're saying you want your own Trail of Tears? That Israel's entitled to its own mass genocide? Let me just remind people, I'm not saying that everyone in this country fights for native rights the way they should, the way we should. But the last time I remember a pipeline in North Dakota going right through native land, you had celebrities descending on Standing Rock to defend it. Now, we have corporate control. We have other, other factors that meant that movement had to be crushed and was crushed. But people were on the side of Standing Rock natives. People were on the side. The moral center was on the side of the indigenous population. And don't fucking, argue with me about who's indigenous to Palestine, y'all. Yes, Jews are indigenous there. Yes, Christians are indigenous there. Yes, Palestinians are indigenous, and Muslims are indigenous there. The state of Israel, not indigenous there. I need y'all to understand, though, they require this. You have to require the dehumanization, the allowing of rape, the turning of a blind eye in order to continue this project. And they're the first ones to admit it. So they hate liberal Zionists too. They hate anyone in Israel who's has a problem with it, because they're like, what do you mean? This is what we need to do to get rid of the terrorists, supposedly, and to continue our project. We're working for you. And you hear that in this psycho's demeanor. And he's being applauded. This is illegitimate as far as I'm concerned. I won't go into politics or media. We have our own media. We understand who's pulling the strings, but I won't go into it. So who? Who's pulling the strings that you won't go into? This is just like, I don't know. I'm not as versed on Israeli like politics as other folks, but like this sounds like some I don't actually have an answer for who's pulling the strings, but someone's pulling the strings. Sounds also a little anti-Semitic.
המעצר שלכם באמת היה איזה נקודת שבר. מעניין אותי, המעצר שלכם באמת היה איזה נקודת שבר, שעורר טעם, אתה יודע, ראית
Your arrest was a breaking point that awakened people.
טעם שלא ראיתי, אנשים הגיעו לשדה תימן.
There was rage I never seen
בefore. על הדבר הזה שאנשים כל כך קפצו לשמור עליכם, להגן עליכם.
People stood there.
קודם כל שמחתי מאוד שהימין יודע להתעורר בארץ
ישראל. I'm very happy. I was happy to learn that the right wing knows how to wake up in Israel. I don't want to go into the left wing, but the end, this is how it is, because the right wing is the one that stood up. The people of Israel know when it's needed. Just don't break into any army camps. Okay, so even he has a line. No, that's good. Don't break into any army camps because we're raping in there. We're raping in there. We should put a sign on the door. Busy abusing detainees. Don't do it. Don't do it. It just hurts us and our good name. You can protest, keep the law. We kept the law in the pens, sure. During the hardest time. I killed people and lost people. I went through battles. And the first time I went into the pen, I was shaken by it. It's not easy to be in front of rapists and murderers. Oh yeah, you mean like your fellow soldiers? It's so difficult to be in front of rapists and murderers that you have to also rape and murder. Like, no matter which way you slice whatever the fuck he's saying, I understand why he wears a mask. Because I wouldn't be able to look at myself either. But also, what are you afraid of? Why do you wear masks? Not on some like, this is what, the right accuses Palestine protesters of doing when they're trying to be safe from COVID, or BLM protesters from doing when they're trying to be safe from COVID. This motherfucker is literally wearing a mask. He might as well be blurred out. Usually the person who needs to be blurred isn't the good guy. Once again, back to who is good, who is bad guy. You might be the baddie if.
רוצחים זה רצח 7, זה אנס 8, זה ככה, זה ככה, וזה ככה, וכולם יודעים בדיוק מה המחשבות שעובר לך בראש. אבל החוק עומד לנו מול העיניים כל הזמן.
But the law stands in front of our eyes the whole time. He says, you don't know, this person raped 7, that person raped 8. Oh, you don't actually know. Oh, because a lot of those stories actually have been debunked. And the whole mass rape as a weapon of war that, hey, the New York Times ran with has actually been not proven. This is not to say that hostages have not been raped, but not proven. So you are making shit up.
ואנחנו נשמור עליו, והוא חשוב לנו.
תגיד, מה התחושה שלך מול המערכת?
What's your feeling about the system, about the IDF, about the prosecutor's
אני
office?
חושב שצה"ל שלנו...
I think our IDF is a healthy army. The commanders, the fighters, the people in the field. If there's someone in the higher ranks who wants to spoil it for us, I'm here to defend our good name. Oh, if there's someone in the higher ranks who wants to spoil our fun, inserting objects into the rectums of the people, the ambulance drivers we decided to capture. I swear to God, I like this. The depravity is so endless. And I can't even believe, like, what the fuck? Why would you care what this person thinks? Oh, don't spoil her. Don't yuck my yum. You fucking psychos. Stop it. Stop this wave, please. Stop sowing fear in the hearts of the fighters. Oh, you're sorry. Your fighters they're not afraid. So see, because they're not afraid because they are breaking into people's homes, putting on women's lingerie. They are shooting fish in a barrel. They are attacking mentally disabled people with dogs and grandmothers with dogs. They are, remember, the other thing to remember about Timon, I don't know how to pronounce it, but this detention center. Remember that a lot of the people there were captured after whole areas had been bombed and cleared out. Now, who is left? Not Hamas fighters, disabled people, old people, young people, people who could not move. There is the New York Times story, when we first talked about this on the show, discusses that one of the people who was held instead, Timon, was accused of being a militant, but he was like a paraplegic. He could not move. These are the kinds of people who are being terrorized. Again, the depravity. Stop sowing fear. Oh, the other reason they shouldn't be afraid is because they have the biggest military on earth sending them billions of dollars in weaponry. I don't think they're afraid.
בתוך ליבות הלוחמים. תפסיקו ליצור את התחושה הזאת, ואתם עושים את זה, ואתם יודעים לעשות את זה טוב, תפסיקו עם זה, בבקשה מכם, בשם כל לוחמי צה"ל.
Stop it in the name of IDF fighters. People are hurt by you. They call me from Rafah. They call me and they say we are hurt. Like, yo, honestly, this is some scary shit. Like, it is, the last thing I'll say is, despite, I think, a culture of racism and ethno-nationalism and a culture of militarism, it is on Israelis to change this. It is on Israelis to turn this around. It is on Israelis to see that, and as they have been doing, and as the family members of hostages who are still, about 120 of them held by Hamas, have been doing, to protest, to vote differently, to counter protest. But I know how scary that must be, because imagine, to go with the Proud Boy analogy a little bit farther, I want us to imagine that our government spent years funneling money to supporting and propping up Proud Boys or any anti-government militia, like whatever, you name it, right? That those guys got a bunch of government funding. Maybe they got federal land, right? Maybe they got maybe they got a tax break. They became powerful and militant, and they're armed, and they're in your communities. And so in order to stand in solidarity with the Palestinians, or in order to protest your government, you have to go through, these Nazis. That, as a civilian, as a citizen, as an Israeli, is terrifying in and of itself. So it is on Israelis to change this, but also a lot of this is out of their control. And a lot of this necessitates a third party, i.e., the United Nations, the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice. Someone has to say enough is enough, because the wheels have come the fuck off. Terrence Trumbo says it takes some real bravery to protest over there. Yeah. And thank you, Techno Steve, for that super chat. I appreciate you. So, I mean, look, it's like, it is about, how do you de-radicalize a whole country? You know what I'm saying? And it's the reason I've said Israel is the Trump of nations, right? They're pariahs. They want to drag us into world wars. They're violent, and they think they're literally the best thing since sliced bread. Right? How do you de-radicalize a nation? It has to come from within, but it also has to be compelled from without, from outside of the country. And so every single person who goes to a Kamala Harris rally, who reminds her of the stakes, who holds a sign, who interrupts her, is a fucking hero. I'm sorry. You are. There's no other way to cut it. Every single time, and the BDS movement, every time you divest, every time you boycott, every time you sanction, every time you force a Starbucks franchise to close down, I know it feels small. Every time a college campus passes a BDS resolution or passes a ceasefire resolution, or every time a community, a city council passes a ceasefire resolution, that is working. This is what we can do, and it's working. So we breathe, we know that we move forward, and it is a litmus test for anyone who dares claim they believe in racial justice, they believe in any kind of good foreign policy, because it's, again, Trita Parsi was on last Friday. This is not just bad politically, it's bad policy. It serves nobody. Nobody. We're starting, Israel's starting World War III, fighting with Iran, fighting with Hezbollah in Lebanon, striking in Beirut, striking in Tehran. We're now bracing ourselves for, maybe more actions or retaliation from Iran, retaliation from Hezbollah. And when that happens, we will be told this was unprovoked. Now we need to go to war, send more money, and yet we don't have healthcare in the richest country on earth. Anyway. So annoying. Just like so annoyed. PNW Unite, thank you for that sort of off-color super chat, but I appreciate it anyway. Guys, support the show. And you know what? You know how you support the show? Tell your friends in Chicago to come see it live. August 20th. I can't believe I'm waiting to the end to tell you about this. August 20th, which is a Monday in Chicago, Lincoln Lodge in Bucktown, Chicago, baby. I will be there doing the live Bituation Room with my husband, Matt Lieb, proud anti-Zionist Jewish comedian who has the podcast Bad Hasbara. It's going to be a Bad Hasbara, Bad Hasbara Bituation Room mashup. We've just confirmed that Walter Masterson of internet, TikTok, Instagram fame, who has stepped to everybody from Matt Gaetz to QAnon crazies, who is so hilarious and funny. Walter Masterson's going to be there with us. We are also going to be talking to a local alderman there, which I'm really excited about. She is a DSA alderman, Rosanna. And I'm so excited to hear about like local politics, because DSA actually has been elected to city council in Chicago. So that's going to be Monday. Tuesday, we're doing stand-up. Our early show, 7 p.m. is sold out, but we have a late show at 9 p.m., which tickets are going fast. And just send it to your friends. If you know people in Chicago, say, you know what, go see Franny. Come see us, francescafiorentini.com, or in the description below. If it's not there, it'll be there really soon. And thank you guys so much. We will see you on Tuesday. We've got some great shows coming up. Next Tuesday, we're going to have Simone Zimmerman, who is one of the co-founders of If Not Now. And she's also highlighted in the documentary Israelism. She talks about her journey from being a proud Zionist to, I don't know if she identifies as anti-Zionist, but of unlearning all of the indoctrination that she learned as an American Jew when it came to Israel. We're also going to be joined by comedian Eliza Skinner. It'll be a great show. And then next Friday, guys, I got Yohan Grillo back, the author of so many incredible books. Gangster Warlords, Narco State, I think is one of his. Anyway, he is an incredible journalist who writes about the drug war, writes about the U.S. Foreign policy when it comes to the drug war in Mexico and beyond. And he's going to be back because there's updates from Mexico's new president. So y'all know how I love to talk about Latin America. And of course, the U.S. has everything to do with that. So next Friday, if we don't mess it up, he's going to be my guest, and I'm so excited. But for now, I love you. Thank you so much for supporting this show. Patreon.com/bitchuationroom. Get that fart song shout out by becoming a patron at $10 or more. At this point, that's the price of a breakfast, a coffee and a donut. Jesus Christ, how are pastries that expensive? All right, take care, y'all. See you soon. Later.